Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher, and this is Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. This time out, we're joined by Tony McManus. Tony, thanks so much for coming in.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
Appreciate you being here.
Great to be here.
You were here this morning on behalf of Paul Reed Smith Guitars, actually a last-minute trip down from Toledo, right?
Well, yeah, I was doing some gigs in Michigan, and I live about 3 hours in the opposite direction, so I faced the car the other way and came down here to join Paul. I love doing these events with Paul. He's a force of nature.
Right.
And the guitars are worth it, so I made the drive.
Right, wonderful. We're glad to have you here.
It's
Thanks
great
for
to
doing
hear.
that. Yeah. So tell me, how did you get started playing guitar? What was the attraction?
Oh, playing guitar at all? Well, when I was a kid, it was the thing I wanted to do. You know, the guitar is a kind of ubiquitous part of Western cultures. Anytime you turn on the TV, there's someone playing guitar. Mm-hmm. So I was born in the mid-'60s, so the kind of standard thing of, you know, rock music, pop music on TV, there was guitars, and I thought, I just wanted to play that. And then I saw classical guitar. I thought, I want to do that as well. And I saw flamenco guitar. I just wanted to do all of it, and I had no real interest in anything else. And I finally got one at age 10, and I just locked myself away in the bedroom for.
Right.
I married at the age of 28. Fully formed.
So 18 years of woodshedding, right?
Yeah.
That's
Something
awesome.
like that.
That's awesome. So what drew you to the fingerstyle approach that you
Well,
play?
I flat pick as well. I'm completely self-taught, so no one pointed out to me that you make this decision. You're either a flat picker or a fingerstyle player. And this distinction seems to be very important in the acoustic guitar world, not so much in jazz. Mm-hmm. You know, Joe Pass sometimes played with a pick, sometimes played with his fingers. Any great jazz player will do both.
Right.
And there's a lot of acoustic players that do both too. Before I played guitar, I started on violin. I was absolutely dreadful. I went from there to mandolin, and the pick. It's the same fingering. See, despite what you see, I'm left-handed. So this hand was always okay, and this was rubbish. But as soon as I got a pick, the same fingering on the mandolin, I was off to the races. Mm-hmm. But all the time I wanted a guitar. So when I finally got the guitar, I was flat picking tunes. I grew up listening to traditional folk music, so I was playing dance music with a flat pick on the guitar. Okay. And I guess too young and inexperienced to realize that not many people did this. Mm-hmm. The guitar is a rhythm instrument in folk music. So I was flat picking as well. And then, you know, occasionally I was getting into arranging things fingerstyle. And, you know, for years didn't really attach any weight to the distinction between fingerstyle and flat picking. I mean, one of the reasons I love this guitar is it's versatile enough to do both. Mm-hmm. The string spacing is wide enough to do anything fingerstyle that I would do. Right. And I do some very strange things, fingerstyle. But I can also flat pick on it. Uh-huh. So it does anything I need to do. I spent some time accompanying fiddle players, for example, mm-hmm. where you have to play real strong groove rhythm stuff. It'll do that. It'll flat pick melodies if I'm sitting in with some bluegrass musicians, whatever. It'll do that, and it'll play fingerstyle too. Right. So it does everything I need it to do. Right. In one guitar.
Right. Well, it's an amazingly dynamic instrument, and your playing is dynamic as well. Is that something you purposefully cultivated, or how did that factor into your playing?
It's, I guess, a response to the music. I don't write a great deal. I hear stuff that affects me and moves me, and I try and filter that through this. Mm-hmm. So it's, I guess, the dynamic range of my playing is a response to listening to fiddle players and singers. The human voice is a great influence on. I'm no great shakes as a singer, but I appreciate great singing. Sure. And that range of expression, I try to bring out in the instrument. Right. Both in terms of dynamics, in terms of ornamentation, and that kind of thing. Right, right. Yeah.
Now you mentioned you don't write a lot, but you're arranging songs.
Yeah.
How do you approach an arrangement? Do you look for the bass line first? Do you support the melody first? Do you reharmonize? How do you approach that?
It's very much ad hoc. Sometimes I'll get the spark of an arrangement, mm-hmm. almost by accident, and the guts of it will happen very quickly, and then the hard work is finessing it. Right. Other times I'll decide, I'll hear a piece of music and think I have to play that, and then go for it. Other times give you a little example. You mentioned bass line. Sometimes it is a bass line. My friend Swag Sibiril, great Breton guitar player, he wrote this beautiful melody, and our friend Alain Gentil put this bass line to it. It's very simple. Just count in slow fours. 3. So this thing was arranged for like 5-6 piece band. It's a big ensemble thing, and I was just playing that and wondering if I could fit the melody on top. So there's the bass line still there.
Sure.
And then the melody just fits on top. That's one example. So it's essentially trying to condense a band arrangement into a solo piece.
Right.
So there's a lot of that going on.
Right, right. I've seen you play a number of times at the PRS Experiences
Yeah.
and watching you play here today. And one of the hallmarks of your playing, for me anyway, is the way you move the internal voices as,
Right.
you're working that. And they really emerge as lines themselves,
Yeah.
counterpoint lines and things. Is that something that you worked on, being able to bring out those internal voices and making them speak?
Yeah, it's something you hear in your head and then try and realize on the instrument as an arrangement progresses. Sometimes it's difficult. Other times, like that, there's a kind of higher voice
Right.
going on. And there's an internal kind of dynamic thing going on. You want certain notes to just be there and not in your face. You want other notes to sit out. I'm exaggerating. So yeah, I've spent a bit of time working on just the internal dynamics of what I'm playing, just to bring certain voices out in a certain way and let other things rumble in
Right.
the background. You know, you don't ever want the listener to be confused as to what is the melody. You know, the melody has to sit on top.
Right.
And that's what I try to do.
Right, right. Now you're doing that, you're playing fingerstyle, obviously.
Yeah.
And you have acrylics on your,
I do.
nails? Yeah.
My own nails are not strong enough to do all that. I do a lot of frailing, you know, where you're flicking down. And that's the middle finger. I also use my third finger to do that. It's not as strong, but it's closer to the bridge, so you get this percussive. And what you're doing, you're imparting a ton of energy to the string in a very short space of time. So you use the sustain. I mean, that'll go on for a week.
Right.
So that kind of thing, combined with hammer-on, pull-off, and using the sustain in the guitar, you can let a line flow.
Right.
That way, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I need the acrylic nails to do that, and my thumb does some weird stuff.
Do you go back and forth like
I
that?
do, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a way of cutting down expense on buying plectrum.
Right.
I'm Scottish.
The acrylics don't wear out, right?
It's true. Well,
That's
it's
great.
you've got a flat pick growing at the end of your thumb, so
Right.
I
Right.
use it.
Right. Now, your hand position isn't quite a classical hand position,
No,
and it's
it's
not
not.
resting on the bridge, is it?
It's not. Here's a weird thing. I've been playing some classical music, and it turns out that is the correct hand position if I happen to be playing, instead of the guitar, a Baroque lute.
Well, there you go.
That is the position. It's not that. That's your Segovia deal there, and it doesn't work for me. Just self-taught. You go with what works.
Sure.
That worked.
It gives you a little different attack because you're
It does.
brushing
You're,
up with the...
you're hitting it at an angle. Another thing I do a lot that doesn't work in that position is triplets with these fingers. And then when you get to the inner strings, it's trying to get 3 fingers in and out.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
difficult.
classical tremolos take some work.
And then on the wound strings, which is, 3 and on. I use my thumb.
Okay. Right. Right.
So all the fingers go in both directions.
Right.
And I use my index finger nail like a pick sometimes. I play with an invisible flat pick.
There you go.
Sometimes I'm subconsciously flitting between flat picking without a pick and fingerstyle.
Right.
You can do it in an instant.
You're doing a lot also of what a classical player would call planting, where you're putting your fingers on the strings to mute them.
Yeah, exactly.
To control things as well.
Yeah, and with both hands, there's some left-hand damping goes on too. Like, you don't want a bass note to ring on, and these fingers are busy, so sometimes you'll mute with this hand.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, when you break it down, there's such a lot going on.
Right.
But the trick is to let it go on subconsciously and concentrate just on the musical ideas.
Right. Right. So you mentioned this guitar, which is a private stock PRS, correct?
This is the signature model, which was launched in 2011. Great honor. The people at PRS have been so supportive of me over the last number of years. This was Paul's suggestion. I'd given them a lot of feedback, along with other players. Ricky Skaggs, Eric Johnson was involved as well, Tommy Emmanuel for a time. All got into supporting this project, and Ricky suggested me, which was a great surprise. And Paul called me up and he said they had a guitar ready to send to me. Wow. So this guitar arrived. What struck me was the quality of the materials. It was this beautiful Brazilian rosewood and beautiful Sitka spruce top, but it was very plain. It was the kind of wood that, if this were a production guitar, they'd have gone to town on the bling.
Right.
And they hadn't, because they weren't interested in that. They wanted to know what the sound was like. They wanted to know how it felt. And that impressed me. They didn't wait, or they didn't rush to get the guitars looking fancy. They waited to get the guitars sounding great, which I think they have done. And then they finessed the aesthetics. And I was, I guess, a little bit skeptical, because I'm used to dealing with single luthiers, working in the textbook way, one guitar at a time, and they sell for a lot of money, and they don't make very many. People that make 10, 15 guitars a year.
Sure.
That's the model I was used to prior to this experience. So I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to fall in love with these guitars, but I did. Initially, it felt like an electric guitar player's acoustic, the way the neck felt. So I gave them a bunch of feedback about that, and by the time this came along, I mean, this is perfect for me. And they took a great deal of time and trouble to get it that way. And the same with the other signature models with Martin Simpson's and Cody Kilby's. The same attention to detail, the same response to feedback. That's what they're looking for.
Nice.
And so this one is brand new. This is just out the box. It feels exactly like that one, that's been all around 4 continents over the last couple of years.
Right.
And it's just rock solid. I pull it out of the case. It doesn't matter whether it's hot and humid and sticky in Australia, or whether I live in southern Ontario, where it's been very cold and bone dry for a number of months, too many months. And it doesn't matter. The guitar just comes out of the case and plays.
Right.
I was mentioning earlier, Air Canada lost it and shipped it. Finally, 2 days later, I got it back, and I'd forgotten to tune it down, which you should do before putting a guitar in an aircraft. And it arrived not just in tune, but perfectly in tune. I put the little tuner on the headstock, and it was green the whole way across.
Wow.
That was after 2.5 days.
That's scary, though.
Oh yeah, that's how little these things move.
Wow, that's amazing.
So no, I'm enormously proud to be associated with these instruments. They're every bit as good as the highest end luthier built guitars, and I own a bunch of those too. But this is the one I take, or that's the one I take. Very often I'm just traveling with one guitar,
Right.
and there it is.
Right.
And it shows as well. That guitar has been loved.
It's been played.
Oh, relentlessly. I'll tell you a story. The first NAMM show I did for Paul, I think, was 2009. and it was the year they officially launched the acoustics. And it was my first experience of a NAMM show, and it was great fun, but very intense. You know, you're playing, you're not doing concerts, you're demoing instruments, so you're playing like 1.5 minute segments of pieces. You don't even play a full piece of music. And that went on for like 4 days. And we were both, Paul and I were kind of joined at the hip for those 4.5 days. And then on the Sunday evening, when the thing all winds down, I went up to my room in the hotel and kind of instinctively just pulled the guitar out. And I sat on the bed, and the next thing I knew, it was 3 hours later.
Wow.
Right?
Right.
And the phone was ringing because they were going for dinner.
Right.
And I was oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I was really hungry. Right? It's just, these things, they just, want to be played.
Yeah, you get lost in it.
Yeah, completely.
Right.
And that was after, 4 days solid of playing.
Right.
So, yeah, I've been playing guitar for 38 years, and still, with these instruments, I get excited taking them out of the case. If I have some downtime when I'm on tour, I take the guitar out and play.
Right.
They're just fabulous instruments.
Right. Well, that's what you want. You want an instrument.
You want an instrument that you get excited by, and inspired by. Like, I've been playing this classical music for the last little while, and I'm not classically trained at all. I have no background in that music, so it's been a real journey of discovery for me in terms of what I can do in terms of technique, in terms of interpretation, and every journey needs a vehicle, and that's the vehicle.
That's the vehicle, right?
That's the one. So I've done this entire album on one guitar.
Nice.
The album before, I took 15 luthier-built instruments into the studio and played a track on each one. And it was great fun, beautiful project. So this is the kind of flip side of the coin.
Right.
That's the one.
Yeah, high recommendation.
Yeah, it's a beautiful instrument.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tony, thanks so much for coming in.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a real pleasure having
Thank
you here. Appreciate your playing and the mini lesson that you've just given us here. It's all wonderful stuff, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps and effects, and we'll be making lots of music. I'm Mitch Gallagher.